Okay, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be doing a preview of the Preakness Stakes over at Pimlico. And I always hesitate to do horse racing content because, well, betting on horses is very, very price sensitive. And people want to know who I like hours before the race or an hour before the race. And quite honestly, unless you know exactly what the price is going to be, you really don't want to bet on horses until there's about 5 minutes to post. So like these morning line odds are kind of a guide, but you really want to wait until the very end. Now, fortunately, Pimlico and the Preakness Stakes particularly, there's so much money in the pool that's being placed early and throughout the course of the day that you might not have to wait till exactly 5 minutes to post to get an idea of what you're going to do. So I am going to go ahead and do this, but what I am going to do for you guys is I'm going to give you bonus coverage and go over some other picks for Pimlico that day, which I think are really, really good. Certainly much better values than the Preakness Stakes. So if you want to go and bet on those, you could rest assured that, can't rest assured they're going to win, but you're getting some really, really good values here. So with that said, I encourage you to sign up if you're going to bet on horses at XB Select. This is where I've gone for forever, honestly. And if you wouldn't mind, if you did sign up, if you didn't have an account already, if you use the promo code TRUEDFS, TRUEDFS, that would be great. And again, this is really one of the only places that I bet. It's the only place I bet with any real volume. So what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to start with the Preakness Stakes. Just in case you guys are not interested in anything else, I'm going to do that first, and then I'm going to go back to the other races. So if you do stick around, you are going to get some tremendous value stuff. But, if you do want the Preakness Stakes, I will give it to you. So with respect to the Preakness Stakes, I hate to tell you guys this, but there's not going to be that big of a price horse or not that great of a bet in this race. There's a couple of things that we can do, and we're going to get to that. And there are some good values, but it's not. Usually at a race like this, there's a horse that's totally ignored this 15-1. It's should be about 3-1, but maybe not today. But let me just go over what I think about this race, and then we can go over an approach. So first of all, horses I think have no chance to win. Number one, Accession, or no chance to get in the money. Accession, no. Jesus' Team, no. The 6, and Live Your Beast Life. So I don't think any of those three should be in any of your wagers. Exactas, Trifectas, Superfectas, whatever. However, the other ones, we have to talk about. So what I'm going to do is let's first talk about the chalk, which I think is, okay, I don't want to say good chalk, but I think they're probably the most likely winners, right? So Authentic and Art Collector, and also Swiss Diver and 1,000 Words. I think all four of those horses are what they call good chalk. They're probably at least close. I think it's safe to say they're the four most likely winners. But between all four of them, I don't think that Authentic and Art Collector are that much better than Swiss Diver and 1,000 Words, right? So let's just say that all, these courses all go off where they're supposed to. Let's just say the Art Collector is 5-2, Authentic's like 9-5, Swiss Diver and 1,000 Words are 6-1. I do think that Swiss Diver and 1,000 Words are just much better values at 6-1 than those other two are at 9-5. But quite honestly, Swiss Diver and 1,000 Words are not that great prices at 6-1 either. So what you're going to look for is if you can get Swiss Diver or 1,000 Words at 10-1, then they should be put on top. Okay, and I'm not going to get into the intricacies of whether they're particularly good in the exactas or the trifectas, but let's just talk about win for a second. If you can get either of those horses at 10-1, then I think that they're worth the wager. Okay, Art Collector and Authentic. If in fact you can get either of them at say 4-1, they're good wagers. But I really just don't think you're gonna get them. I think they're just gonna be about this price, and they're just not gonna be. There's just not gonna be plus EV to bet. So the other tier are these long shots, and that is New York Traffic, Max Player, Pneumatic, right? And these are the interesting horses, because I do think, and this is interesting, I do think that all three of these horses are very live to different extents. So I think that it's kind of weird to say it, but I think New York Traffic of these three has the better chance of winning the race. where I think Max Player and Pneumatic have the more likely chance of getting in the money. I don't want to get into too much of the details of how I derive that, but suffice to say that New York Traffic has a really good chance to run ninth, but it also has I would say a solid 10% chance of winning, right? So if you can get 15-1 or more, like these prices are indicating, then I think that you can do it, because I really do think it's got 10% to win. Max Player and Pneumatic, these horses could go off really long, and I think that they're very, very live. Maybe they can win. You know, I go back and forth between these two horses. I do think that maybe 5 to 10% of the time, whatever. But you don't want a horse like this to go off like 30-1 without you having it. So again, you don't know what's going to happen with the betting. Some of these horses sometimes just get totally ignored when people. This is what people do. They say, okay, I'm going to take Authentic or Art Collector. There's two favorites. But, you know, if I want to take a long shot, I'll go for Swiss Diver 1,000 Words, right? That'll be the next tier. And then people say, if they really want to go after it, maybe I'll go somewhere else like Mr. Big News, who's fine, but he's probably the weakest of the remaining horses, by the way. And sometimes they just ignore some of these others like 8 or the 10, Max Player and Pneumatic. So if you could see either of those go, if it's like 50, you might get them at 50-1. It's possible. In which case, either or both would be good, really, really good bets. You know, because again, this is the edge you're trying to sort here. You know, I think that either of them have probably a 5% chance to win. So 20-1 would be fair value. So if you can get like 30-1, certainly worth playing. But what I would do is, regardless of who you put on top, and you can really put any of these guys on top, is you could certainly play both these guys 8-10 in the second and third spots if you were playing exactors or trifectas. And the last horse I mentioned, Mr. Big News, he, again, I would say he's got about another like a 5% chance to win maybe. So if you do somehow get him at 30-1, you could try it, but you know, he's really, he's the weakest of them all, of those long shots. Now, if you play like superfectas, you want to put him in fourth, that's totally fine, but he's the weakest of the horse I thought have some kind of chance. So that's pretty much it with the Preakness Stakes. I mean, I would, you know, depending on the odds, again, I'm probably going to have a decent amount of these three, New York Traffic, Max Player, and Pneumatic. But again, like if New York Traffic is going up by 8-1, I mean, I don't need it. If Max Players go off at 10-1, I don't need it. If Pneumatic's go up 10-1, I don't need it. You really do have to look at the prices. However, if you're going to play them in the back end of a daily double or a pick 3 or a pick 4, then you can just kind of sort of rely on the morning lines and presume they're going to be sort of long. And you can just kind of, you know, key New York Traffic on top because, you know, Max Player and Pneumatic, as I said, they're probably more solid than New York Traffic, but New York Traffic could actually, I think has better winning chances than 8 or 10. I'm not sure about that, but I do think that all three of these guys are alive. So with that said, that's the Preakness Stakes. But let me go back, if you wouldn't mind. Actually, doing it for my own self anyway, and go over some what I think are just really, really good values over the course of the day at Pimlico. And we're going to start with the fourth race. I think the first 3 races are terrible. So the fourth race, I think that 2 horses really, really stand out as good value. And I'm going to go really quickly through this. Not going to get any of the details or whatever, but Caravel, the 3, and Princess Grace, the 9. So if you want to play these guys in like the first end of pick 3s or pick 4s or whatever it is, I think they're both really, really strong. In the 5th race, I think that the 3, Fly on Angel, is really, really good value. The 5 here, Monday Call, is going to be a really solid favorite. It's going to be probably 3-5, so I wouldn't put, you know, it's not a big hurry to bet him, but Fly on Angel's really good at 8-1. So what you could do is you can go back to that 4th race and go the 3-9, and then hook them up in the 5th race with the 3 and the 5. It's okay to take a little bit of chalk with the 5 if you have such value the race before. 6th race, 7's pretty good chalk. I mean, it's going to be 2-5. You can't really bet it, but this Dionysus, the 4 at 30-1 is a very, very live long shot. I mean, I don't know if it can win, but I certainly put it underneath factor this in exactas. And you know what? I am going to probably put it on top in some of these pick 3s. They could pay like you know, for example, if you get the fourth race 3 of the 9 home, and the fifth race you get the 3, and let's say you can get Odinisa's home, you get all 3 of those in the pick 3. That pays like probably $5,000 for on like a dollar bet. And it's got a shot. I mean, it really does. This is what I've always felt as though the best value in all of these horse races is you go to a track where the big race like the Preakness or the Kentucky Derby, and you bet all the other races. 7th race, Pimlico, I think that it's a tough race, but I think Stan the Man, the 7, is kind of a standout at 9-2. Then after that, it's basically everybody except for the 8 has a shot. 8th race, Pimlico, I think the 8 is okay. Hidden Enemy at 4-1. It's a tough race, but I do think that 8's a little bit of a standout. The other horses underneath it are going to be the 1, 3, 6, 7, 9, 10, so a whole bunch of them. But I do think the Hidden Enemy is slightly better. The 9th race, this is, again, a tough race. I wouldn't bet this race, but if you did, Don Juan Kitten at 9-2 is probably the most likely winner. But again, that's not that big a deal. The 10th race, I'm kind of into. This Bonnie South is good chalk at 7-5 sort of, but the horse I really like here is Mizzen Bow. It's 12-1. You could put it on top of Bonnie South and maybe even use Bonnie South with Mizzen Bow and Exactas. 12-1, man. That's really, I'm telling you, it's going to be a really, really good price on this horse. And then the Preakness Stakes, as I mentioned. I don't think I'm going to do this regularly. I am going to do something for the Breeders' Cup, which is going to be in a month. But I figured people were asking me who are liking the Preakness. I figured I'd make a short video on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, this is quite the DGen Saturday. It's got the Preakness Stakes. You got, I don't know if you have baseball today. I think they're off from baseball. But you got all kinds of NASCAR this weekend. You got football tomorrow. So today actually is not all that heavy. You got a couple of NASCAR races, but you do have the Preakness Stakes. So I figured I'd give you some content with that. All right, that's it, and have a good day.